I needed to, wrong app. Instagram. This is going to get noisy, folks. Doing a quick audio check that I should have done before pressing go live. Is that working? Of course not. Flipping the wire.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty big.
Hey, it is working now. Beautiful. Pressing live. And we're going live with Instagram too. Oh, yeah. It's Monday. I got a case of the Mondays, which is not a bad thing. It is Ask a Traffic Cop time, where I get to answer your traffic and police questions. That's what those are. Yeah, we're doing it for an hour. Tomorrow we'll be doing it for an hour and a half, because tomorrow we're going to join Jerry Ager on News Talk 1010. Well, we're going to start with his audience and then move into just our regular thing, because when we connect with Jerry, we don't take away from your time. Your time is important. So an hour and a half tomorrow, an hour today, and then no show until June. Yes, I'm going on vacation. I will not be in the studio. I will be elsewhere, but not here. And I will do everything in my power to resist the temptation to go live from wherever I am in the world, because I've been known to do that. I went to Florida. I went live from my balcony at the hotel because I just needed to say hey. And I feel bad leaving you for a couple of weeks. So I may or may not go live while on vacation, but I'll be resisting temptation. Anyway, good time to be around in the city of Toronto. The weather is finally nice. I'm very happy. It's police week. That started on the 14th. Today's the 15th. That means that was yesterday, and today's the next day, and there you go. What are we doing? So we'll be talking about a lot of different things. We'll be talking about employment. We'll be talking about, of course, the answers to questions you might have about traffic and police stuff and things. We'll be talking about, we'll talk about motorcycles. We're going to talk about motorcycle safety, because May is also Motorcycle Awareness Month. We'll just talk about all sorts of things. But if you want to ask questions, please ask them here using YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook. Those are all ways to get me straight on screen, where you can put stuff like Twitch Zombie just sent a message of happy Monday morning. And that happens automatically just because they're coming in by Twitch. If you're coming by TikTok, well, we're going to see that, but it's going to require the assistance of our producer or producers, and it's now plural. They're multiplying, not necessarily together, but there's more of them than there were yesterday, and or at least a couple of weeks ago. And I've got folks who are coming in by the chat, and I see all sorts of people there. We have, just to acknowledge a few, we have Golden Heart Queen. I had to hover to get the rest of your username. Ericon, we have Exclusive, we have GS Mato, Jules, Guy says good morning. Automotive, somebody hovering, Automotive Addiction, okay. Let's see here, your pal Timmy, Lemke, we have more and more. People are just pouring in. Okay, cool. I want to get right into stuff and things, and we're going to start off by talking about Vision Zero Enforcement Team very quickly. For those who are new to the channel, Vision Zero Enforcement Team is a dedicated group of enforcement officers that specifically focus on the driver behaviors that lead to serious injuries and death on our road. We know that certain things have a higher propensity or a higher likelihood of going to lead to serious injury and death, and we focus on those. What are those horrible, horrible, horrible things? Well, let's press a button and put them on screen. The big four: speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving. Those are inexcusable. They lead to those, well, I said it 6 times now, I think. They lead to serious injury and death on our roads, and people argue that speeding doesn't cause collisions. Well, they're wrong. Speeding is not only something that increases the amount of damage and injury when a collision occurs, but you actually increase your crash risk. Argue otherwise if you wish. You're wrong. Aggressive driving, that's a blanket term. It covers all sorts of things, from running lights and stop signs to unsafe lane changes and passing. There's so many things that are aggressive. But think about it. If it's aggressive and not following the rules, I guess that covers almost everything. But there's some that we focus on. Distracted driving is obviously a huge issue, and I'm glad I put them side by side with impaired driving, because distracted driving, you're not paying attention to the road, and it's as though you were impaired. Impaired by phone doesn't work, but it is a distraction, and it is a problem, and we'd like you not to do it. But if you do choose to do any of these things, know that we have enforcement officers spending time in different areas of the city looking for people in those focused areas. Not listen, they're going to also write tickets for other things, but they're focused on the stuff that means the most. Where are they today? 32 Division and 55 Division. That's Downsview, Willowdale, Newton Brook, Bathurst Manor, the beaches, Riverdale, Danforth, East York, neighborhoods where real people live, work, and play, and deserve to be safe. Yes, it is a thing. Okay, let's see what's going on for some questions, and then we'll pop back and talk about other stuff and things. We have Chase. Oh, so Chase brings up something very important, or at least he has a very keen sense of observation. Is observation a sense the way you have a skill? You're a skilled observer. So I used to have subscriber counts on TikTok that were in the background, and now it just says Sean Shapiro, Ask a Traffic Cop. And the reason being is we thought that it might be affecting the algorithm, that it might possibly be changing the way that we were being shared online. So we took it down to avoid. And then we got flagged on one of our recent live streams and said we were not original content. I think it's possible that we were just so professional that the system thought we were using somebody else's canned show, that this may have been pre-recorded or somebody else's. And I looked into all the information that I could find online, and it suggested that it's possible that the QR code that we had on screen may have caused the algorithm to trigger that. And alternatively, logos could have possibly done it. But we have seen significantly lower live stream counts on TikTok alone. Listen, we're here whether it's for one person or 100 or 1,000, but we used to see 40,000 people in our live streams daily, and that's significantly gone down. We have about 549. So on that topic, if you're watching, please tap that screen on TikTok or Instagram, which we're also on, and that allows the algorithm to know that you like what you're seeing, and others should join in. If nobody else shows up, we're cool with just you. It's not just you. It's you, and you're important. But you know what? The more the merrier. So, I took down the logos, which used to, show all the different platforms we were on, just in case that was triggering the algorithm to not treat us nicely. We can't control what they do. But we try and work within the rules to make everything go smooth and nice. All right. Lemke wants to know why we target traffic when we have so many other issues. Well, what other issues do you want to talk about? Now, first of all, we are the traffic police. This is traffic services, says so right over my head. But what should we focus on if not traffic being the traffic unit? Do you want us to there's homicide officers who do homicide. There's general patrol officers and PRU, primary response units, that respond to primary response calls. But we have collisions in our city, and we have people causing those collisions, and they're taking lives too. In fact, historically, the number of people that die as a result of violent crime are either equal to or less than the people who die as a result of collisions. Those are caused by choices drivers make. See, if you drive a vehicle safely, then chances are the collisions that will occur will be minor. Yeah, but the ones that are caused by the more aggressive, the speeding, the distracted, they tend to be much more serious. And we're trying to, vision zero, have zero serious injuries and deaths on our road. We accept that minor collisions are going to happen. But the ones that change lives and communities, they're not acceptable. And we work every day to change behavior. And that involves issuing tickets and taking licenses and doing all the things that need to be done. So why do we focus on traffic? Because it matters, because it's important. And if you stick around, maybe you'll find out more reasons why. Okay. Is anyone able to use YouTube chat? Had it open, but it was blank and have no option to type. What do you mean? You're using YouTube chat, aren't you? Yeah, looks like you are. Oh, no, that was covered. That was cut and paste from TikTok. Yes, anyone who comes in, if you've got a registered account on YouTube, you should be able to just use YouTube chat. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Things are scrolling, so things are busy. That's good. Okay. I'm 20 and got my G2. What's the rules for driving on the highway? If you have your G2, you should already know this, but you know what? Lots of information gets in one of my ears and out the other. So I have no problem with answering questions. We talk about the same things all the time, but that is something you should know. G2 drivers can drive anywhere. They can drive anywhere but have restrictions or conditions. You must maintain a 0 BAC, which is blood alcohol content, and you can't have any alcohol. Wait, that's the same thing. It's the same thing. You can't have any alcohol in your system, 0 BAC. And then you have restrictions between the hours of midnight and 5 a.m., and that deals with the first 1 year. So in the first 6 months of that 1 year, you can have no more than one person under the age of 20 in your vehicle during those hours, unless they're an immediate family member. Now, during the second 6-month period, it changes. You can have up to three persons in your vehicle under the age of 20. And then after the year, you no longer have a restriction. I see a message from Joanna. I'll respond after the live. I get texts from media, so there's a question coming in. Let's see here. Okay, not traffic related. This is in relation to, okay. So Zombie wants to know, and I'm assuming this is specific to the police sergeant who was killed near Ottawa. So the question is, why did so many officers attend the hospital? And the reason being is because it's a family member. It's a big blue family. But when one of us gets, killed, it affects all of us. And an outpouring of support is normal because we stick together. You can pick some family, and that's usually a tighter bond than the family that gets assigned to you. Hey, are you going to join in?
I have a few moments.
Oh. This is actually an interesting time for you to jump in because the question was, after last week's tragedy, why did so many officers, Zombie counted over 70 or estimates over 70, why did they all go to the hospital? I was just saying it's because it's the blue family, and when somebody gets hurt or killed, we tend to have an outpouring of support.
Hi there, yeah. I'm not sure why so many people went, but I probably feel that they felt obligated to go and lend their support to the family, to the fallen officers, and to the two other officers that were in there that were injured during this event. So
it wasn't that they had to go; it's that they chose to go, or made themselves available, or they're on duty, off duty. Who knows? Like, there's a lot of emotions. We've lost more officers in the last 12 months than we've had in years.
Yeah, absolutely.
For Canada and specifically Ontario.
And I've done it. I've done it on the way home. I know an officer that got injured at work, and I've stopped into the hospital on the way to say, hey, I'm here. Is there anything you need? Is there anything I can do to help you?
And we want to be there for the family, not just the injured officer. There's so much that's going on, a lot of emotions for everybody. But I speculate that is why. Let's see here. Automotive addiction has a question. Do you have to? Oh, here.
I have one of those too.
Yes, you really do. Do you pull over loud bikes? I have no problem with loud anything. Personally, loud saves lives. I'm glad you said that because it's not true. It is a fallacy. I love it. I appreciate that there's a belief system supporting it. It doesn't actually work because there's something called Doppler, and that sort of changes everything. Also, the pipe is facing the wrong way for it to have a better chance of saving you.
Yeah. I ride a Harley. It has aftermarket pipes on it, but they're not loud, and they don't need to be loud. You know what? As a good driver, you have to be so defensive when you're driving a motorcycle because no matter whether you're right or wrong, you're going to lose if you get into a confrontation with a car.
It's the same thing with cyclists.
Yep.
You're a vulnerable road user on a motorcycle, or on a bicycle, or on a skateboard, or anything. So you have to be better. But being loud annoys people and probably doesn't do you any favors.
Yep. And you know what? If you've got the entire population not liking you, they're less likely to give you the space that you deserve when you're out there. It's human nature. I have to ride really, really defensively when I'm out there. And it's not because my bike isn't loud. It's because it really doesn't change anything. You hear it after the fact. If I'm accelerating, if it was a really, really loud bike, you would hear it after the fact.
Yeah, you leave a trail. It's like a chemtrail, but noise. And it really negatively impacts the communities you ride through or drive through if it's cars. I am woken up some nights because of it. I really feel for the people who work shift work in the city, who have to listen to it all day long when they're trying to sleep. And there's only so much you can do to combat that noise. It's ridiculously loud. Not every motorcycle, not every car is ridiculously loud. They could just have louder than average. So let's talk about what we charge for. There's something called unnecessary noise, and it has to be unnecessary. It has to be such for us, we have to be able to describe and paint a picture for the courts, explaining why. It's not just to say, you're noisy. It's I felt it in my chest that everyone turned to look like it's more than just noisy, because you can have a 12-cylinder vehicle that is noisier than a 4-cylinder Honda, but it may not be unnecessary. It may not be ridiculous. It may be acceptable. Muscle cars could be acceptable. A little throatier roar, but there's that threshold. And I used to say that if your mom thinks it's too loud, it's probably too loud. But nowadays, there's moms who think it's cool to have loud exhaust. So, it really depends. The average person, the person who doesn't like it, well, that's the person we're judging it based on.
Yeah, and along with unnecessary noise, that could be the way that you're riding as well. Mm-hmm. But improper muffler is another one that we can charge for. And that would be a visual inspection. That would be, is it lawful for the road? Is it past the qualifications to actually be sold as an on-road muffler?
So the key is really, why is it too loud? Because if it's missing a muffler, that's a separate violation. You can get 2 different offenses. If it's just loud because of driver behavior, which I think more often than not, that's the biggest issue. Someone winding it up, showing off, intentionally making the noise. And that's again, where the problem's going to sit. Because you could have, I always say, a stock Honda Civic, and people, when we start talking about different shifting and transmissions, maybe Honda Civic's not the right one anymore. But if you drive something at red line at 40K, you're causing unnecessary noise, even if it's stock. Yep. My wife says, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. How long is this online license plate renewal valid for? Okay. If you have renewed online, you had the choice of 1 or 2 years. So based on when you renewed it, it's 1 or 2 years.
And for most people, it's free. So why not choose 2 years?
Yes. And I question, why on earth would it even give you the option? It's because they used an old existing framework for purchases that still have options for the people who have to pay. Like commercial vehicles, they still have the choice of 1 or 2 years.
And who else has to pay?
Snowmobiles have to pay. I don't have that problem.
It kills me. Absolutely kills me that the snowmobile is not allowed to be operated on the roadway, but they collect road tax through the sticker for a snowmobile that you're using exclusively on Crown or private property.
Just a quick thing, if you are looking for a way to renew and you don't know where to find it, and Google's not your friend, but it's pretty friendly, you can go to trafficcop.ca. I have a whole bunch of links, and look at that link right there. Renew your license plate. If you go there, you can go through the system. You can also set up for reminders where you are able to be reminded as to when you need to renew. They'll send you a text, they'll send you a phone call, an SMS, they'll send you an email. You can set up all the options for not only your license plate, but your driver's license and your Ontario health card.
And you know what? If you're old like me, you need a reminder just to get a reminder to do it.
I set it up for my dad who needs reminders. I set it up for myself. You know what? Why not take advantage of the free and the because it's not free if you forget. Suddenly that gets expensive. Guy question. Maybe it's Guy who has a question. If my Bluetooth is hooked up to my live and I answer a question, it got cut off. Hold on a second. Is that legal? So the question is, was not cut off. It just ends abruptly. So if are you talking about live streaming while driving? If your screen is active, if you're reading questions, if you are engaged in a video, if your phone is on with a screen active that's playing a video, you're breaking the rules. You cannot be seeing that screen, so you couldn't be able to press a button to answer it, because it's a standard phone conversation. You can have that momentary answer or hang up, but if that video screen is active, you've already gone beyond the threshold.
Right, and for video calls as well, you can't have that. But a standard voice-only conversation, whether it be by live or whatever platform you're using, is absolutely fine.
When you say live, I assume live is live stream. So, for instance, Zoom, they even have a mode in Zoom that will not show any participants. It'll just have a push-to-talk button. Perfectly legal, designed to be able to be compliant under the law. WebEx does the same thing. So most of these major applications know that people will be taking calls while they're driving. Is it safe? Are you distracted? Well, it's less safe than not being on a phone call, because focusing on driving is better. But at least if you're not activating the camera, not activating the screen beyond that of a answer or hang up situation or mute or unmute, then you're okay. Let's see here. I love my life. 187 says, what type of driver's license is needed to be an auxiliary officer? So interesting that you say that or ask that, because it used to be a full G. And now, if you look at it, let me go to the career section here and update this to do that. Careers. And then it's a great segue to then speak about careers. But it looks different. So police constable, where's volunteer? Volunteer youth, auxiliary. By the way, I was an auxiliary officer. Greatest way to volunteer for your city there is. Okay. Fully licensed G driver having accumulated no more than 6 demerit points. Now, I question this only because if you look at police constable requirements, it no longer says full G license. It says something else, which, can I find it? Possess a valid driver's license with no more than 6 accumulated demerit points, permitting you to drive an automobile with full driving privileges. It doesn't say G. Does that mean G2?
No, but I guess if you had a Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D, that would still qualify you. It doesn't say G specifically.
But a G would, if you had an A, you'd still be covered under G.
You would be covered under G, but one says you must have a G. The other one says you can have a driving license with full driving privileges. So it means there's no restriction on it. There's no time. There's no passenger. There's no.
Okay. So it's still going to be G regardless of the
G
word.
minimum,
G
and then
minimum. There's
the
your
more
answer.
the better.
G
That's
minimum.
the way I read it. Anyways.
I just thought it could be something, because the G2 still has restrictions of alcohol, which wouldn't apply because we wouldn't want to be drinking and driving.
Right.
So that would be irrelevant. And you can't take passengers who aren't your immediate family between midnight and 5 a.m. So I guess that would be a problem if you were a police constable applicant.
Yeah.
Potentially. Yeah. In any case, G-class license forever and a day has been the requirement, and I assume it's still the same. Minimum.
And if you get 6 demerit points?
So there's a whole other situation. If you are someone who is having difficulty following the law, and you have a record of that in the way of your driving record, maybe policing is not for you, because you're not following the rules that you're going to be asked to now enforce. I have an issue with it. If you can't follow the rules, I don't necessarily think you'd be a good candidate, but I could be wrong. See, 6 demerit points could be one license, one ticket.
Yep, absolutely.
And it could just be a collision, and that's different. What I'm painting a picture of when I'm saying someone who can't follow the rules, I mean someone who is stunt driving, habitual
multiple
speeder.
tickets,
Multiple tickets. A pattern of behavior that suggests you don't respect the rules.
Yeah.
One ticket. It's not fair to say one ticket, you got 6 points. I'm talking about just someone who's got a really bad driving record. So driving records are important. The rules are important. People question me regularly about, why is it such a big deal? Why do you fault? Why enforce these things? What does it matter?
Because if we don't, then it's a free-for-all. And people do whatever they want and take advantage of you, hurt you, and
Well, it
put you
is
in danger.
ultimately to protect everybody.
Yeah.
And then I like the broken window concept that was, is tied to New York City, where if you don't fix a broken window, you invite crime into those areas. Well, if you don't enforce small laws, suddenly people no longer have concern about enforcement. They start taking bigger and bigger steps to not follow laws. And then you have people who, on this weekend, I saw like 6 motorcycles, 6 together, and then there was a few motorcycles independently, no license plates. Not just tucked, no license plate. So why is that an issue? They're probably not licensed. They're probably up to no good in terms of stunt driving. Potentially
insurance?
speculating. Certainly no insurance if there's no plate. And even if they are insured, if they take it off to avoid being detected or identified, why? Well, it means they're probably engaged in behavior that they don't want to get caught about or be referenced to. There's just no good that comes of it. Just saying.
And you know what? If everybody is allowed to do a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there, then there's not that much of a step to get to the next level, and then the next level. And then we've got a situation where everybody's a danger out there, and there's lawlessness on the road. So,
Well, exactly. People say, why don't you raise the speed limit? The speed limit's too low. Well, we have it at 100, and the average speed is over 120 right now. If I make it 120, the average speed will likely shift 20 kilometers more, and the average will become 140. Maybe not, but I think that's sort of the direction things go.
I'd love to see a speed limit of 120 on some highways here. with absolute strict enforcement.
Well, and
Give them
that's-
120. Let them travel at 100. Let everybody travel at 120. When everybody's going the same speed, there's less of a speed differential. People zipping in that traffic. It makes the road safer.
I saw a video last night, or maybe it was this morning. We were tagged in it, and they basically said in this country there was a 140 speed limit, but a minimum of 120 in the lane 1 and lane 2 that is strictly enforced. And you know what? As long as everything is strictly enforced, I have less of an issue with it.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. We have a question from Dr. Nick. Part 1 of 2. Highway 401 is statistically the safest multi-lane roadway in North America, despite the average speed being 125. Isn't this enough evidence for you to support raising the limit? Let's see. There was a part 2.
It kind of goes back to what we were saying. If everybody is allowed to do 120 and everybody is traveling at 120, I would agree. It would be safer.
Because differential
But
is,
right now, everybody's traveling at 120. But
we're constantly getting people at 140, 150, 160,
Right.
170, 180, 190. We're seeing over 200. And here's a part 2. Highways with 120 limit in BC have the same average speed as the 401, so it has been proven it won't cause people to go even faster. So if there's no speed differential and everyone's doing it, and because it's legal, but here the problem is that it's not legal and people are doing it. So is it safer when you're breaking the law? Well, I have an issue with it. It's
Right.
not legal.
because it's been allowed to happen and people are thinking this is the norm, when it does get raised to 120, that means, okay, I'm still good to go up to 140.
But even if it's just breaking the law by 20 and it's safe because everyone's doing it, according to Dr. Nick's question, but it's still wrong. The law says you should do 100. You're not supposed to be. So what happens when you get into a collision and through the wonder of science, they determine you were doing 20 over? Well, now you're at fault. Even from your insurance company, you've led in and created a scenario where you've increased the damage. You're more responsible than you were before. You can still be charged for 120. It's still a ticket. You're still eligible for it. And there are people who worry about those things because they should. I've seen videos on TikTok where someone complained, how dare you stop me and charge me for 120? Well, we've just lost sight of the fact that laws are there to be followed, not to simply make up our own.
If everybody did 100 and there was an argument to be made that 120 is just as safe, then the government would change, like they have done on some highways.
Mm-hmm.
They'd raise it up a little bit.
I think that, well, obviously, if they change the laws, they change the laws, and we'd support whatever they change it to. But while it's 100, please do not speed. Or you take it on the chin when you get a ticket because you've decided to engage in that behavior. Okay, enough about speed until the next question. Can I get into trucking with a stunt driving case? That's a question for your employer, because if you have a stunt driving charge and you have a suspension and they ask for an abstract, they may see the suspension, they may hold it against you, they may ask you for information, but you've not necessarily been convicted. You said case, so I'm assuming it's pending. It's not on your record yet. Is it possible that once they find a stunt driving charge and you get a 1 to 3 year suspension, that you might have a difficult time being a truck driver? It's a 1 to 3 year suspension on your first conviction. Not to mention the fact that it's $2,000 to $10,000 fine and up to 6 months in jail should the courts decide to impose that. It's not very common, but it is an option for them. So it could be career limiting, yeah.
And changing the class of your driver's license as well is only going to be held back because of your suspension.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an active driver's license right now and you want to change it, going from a G to a D class license or to an A class license, you still can't do that. But if you do get a suspension upon conviction, your Class A license will then be suspended, which will limit your employment ability.
Bad. GS Mato has a question. Are factory valved mufflers illegal or considered improper mufflers? So this is an interesting question. We've talked about this a lot before. And so you can buy vehicles that have race modes, factory approved for sale in Canada, that bypass the exhaust system when you're in race mode. Now, it's not permitted on the road in that mode. And how is that legal compared to an aftermarket system where you cut out and put a diverter in, a bypass, which is absolutely legal, even if it's not in mode? Like, you put it in after, it's not legal. But if it comes factory, how is it legal? Is it because you have to do an I accept all responsibility button on the screen? Like, I don't know. But it is there, and it's a valid question.
See, it's my understanding that even possessing them, having them on your car, no matter what, is unlawful.
Right, but every single performance car on the market sold in Canada has that option.
Doesn't bypass the muffler, though. Changes,
I thought it's a dump. I think it's a bypass.
completely bypass.
Maybe not. Maybe it changes something else, and maybe it's my misunderstanding of what it does. So I was under the impression that it was a bypass, that it was a straight dump racing mode. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe we should look into that
I
and
think we should
report
look
back.
at that. Yes, I like that idea. But it is something that but truly a bypass where it dumps before the muffler, not legal. And there's some really creative systems, like with keychain remotes, and they hit a solenoid and diverter valves happen, and it's cool. It's not legal. It's cool. I like the technology. I like the ingenuity. Not a fan of the result and the lawlessness. Okay, Bubbles has a question. Is having 0.6 blood alcohol level what? Okay, so 0.06. 0.6 would
I
be
was about to say, 0.6
is a lot.
pretty close to being dead.
Well, yeah.
Or you would be dead.
Yeah, that's not. It's deadly. 0.06. So 0.05 is the legal limit in Ontario for what you can have, and it's pretty much standard across Canada. 0.05. Once you've hit that, you would get a 3-day suspension on your first time blowing over. And that's an administrative suspension because you can't legally operate a motor vehicle like that. You can't even be the supervising driver as a passenger to a learner's to a G1 driver. What changes is at 0.08, not 0.8, but 0.08 BAC, blood alcohol content, you are now criminally violating while behind the wheel. You're considered operating under the influence, or what is it? It's operating while impaired. Operation while impaired.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not impaired.
It's over. It's 80 or over.
Operation of a motor vehicle at 80 or above.
And then there's additionally the charge of impaired driving, which may not even require a blood alcohol content that high. It's
could
based
be
on
at-
observations.
It could be at 0.01. Could impair you.
Because any amount of alcohol and or drugs can create impairment, and everybody's different. Everyone responds to alcohol differently. So people say, I can, they aim for a number. And some people even invest in personal, breathalyzers of sorts. That doesn't mean you're okay. There's a lot more that goes into it. And worrying about the numbers is not the way to play. Making alternative choices prior to engaging in the party, that's the way to go. Having another way to get home. Having another person who's the designated sober driver, not just designated driver, because it tends to be that people go out with it. One person is the DD, and they just drink less. That's not okay. There's so many services, so many options for alternatives to driving. So don't drive whilst impaired or while consuming drugs or alcohol.
I got to tell you, Sean, I'm very impressed with my kids' generation in their early 20s. It isn't even a second thought to them.
No kidding.
No, if they're going out, they get a ride. They designate somebody. They have somebody come pick them up. It's something that doesn't even cross their mind. They've just grown up with it that way because it's been such a topic growing up for them.
That's cool.
And I'm glad it is.
But we still have a lot of people to arrest every weekend, and although we don't get the reports the way we used to, because our friend is occupied with other things at the moment, it's too many. They may be older, but there's too many.
Yep.
We have a question about. Oh, okay. That wasn't the question. But things reset, so we'll talk about this first. I was wondering, as an international student with an international driver's license, can I drive? Well, okay. In Ontario, and any province will have different rules. Like Quebec will allow you to drive with a foreign license and an international driver's permit whilst being a student. However, Ontario considers you a resident while you are studying here. And once you become a resident, you must apply for a local license within 60 days, which means that your international driver's license, or foreign license, is no longer valid, will not be accepted here. And that's a problem for you if you were anticipating driving, because not every place gets a straight trade. Some places will or will not credit you for your experience back home, and you may have to start with a learner's permit. It is important to check, and you can go to trafficcop.ca, where I have a link for for drivers coming from other provinces and other countries, so it'll explain it to you. You can find out all the rules about here, about Ontario, and that's the best place to start. But there's two things. There's a foreign license, and then the international driver's license is not an actual license. It's a translation card. And that is a big problem because people think it actually has authority or gives you some kind of driving privilege. It doesn't. It just works together with your actual issued license.
Yeah, you actually have to have both. The clue to it not being a legal document is it's in Canada issued by CAA.
Yeah.
That's kind of a
private
clue.
company.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't give you any authority to drive. It just translates the contents of your government issued ID to something that I can understand if it's in another language, which I don't speak.
So if you pass your 60 days and you're in Ontario driving in Ontario, your home country driver's license is no longer valid.
Mm-hmm.
It is being replaced by an Ontario driver's license. It doesn't invalidate your driver's license from your home country when you go back, but it does when you're driving in Ontario or in Canada anyways.
And again, it depends on where you are in Canada because it may work elsewhere, but it won't work here because you're a resident here and the rules have very specific requirements. Let's see here. We have, if a driver, here, that's the question that I thought I was selecting. If a driver blatantly runs a stop sign and I have a dash cam footage, should I report it or no? So there's two parts to this. I think you should. We have a mechanism in place so you can. It's online, tps.ca. Yes, tps.ca. And then in there you can make several types of reports, one of which is reporting the behavior of a specific driver. York Regional Police has a similar thing. I assume OPP would have the same. In any case, you can make the report. Will it generate a file? Yes. Will it result in charges? Maybe. And if your goal is to report a driver so someone can reach out and say, hey, your driving stinks and you should really change your behavior, well, that's going to happen. Will it result in them getting a ticket? It may not.
There's a certain criteria that has to be met before we put somebody before the courts. Identity, time, location, all those things have to be positively have evidence before we put it before that court. So if we can't gather it just from a video, do we know the name of the person? Do we know the driver's license? Do we have their positive identification, or was it their twin brother, twin sister? So that's the criteria. That's the hill we have to climb. And if we make the top of the hill and we have all those things, then yes, we can lay the charge. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't.
It all depends. And that depends is a really common thing. And now we've broken the depends seal for the show. We can.
Did I say it? Depends?
You just did now.
Oh.
Did we say it before?
Oh, depends.
We may have said it already. Let's see here. We got 10 messages here. Unflag this one. Chase thinks that the 407 would be a great pilot for basically the Autobahn. I'm paraphrasing.
I might have an opinion on that too.
Yeah, many people. You may not be alone, but it doesn't matter.
Currently, it isn't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
people think it is. There's so many different ways, and the Autobahn is really not a good example because people think the Autobahn is a no speed limit.
A free for all, and
in populated areas, the Autobahn has speed limits of 80 to 130 kilometers an hour. It is strictly enforced by photo radar, police presence, and not only photo radar for simply radar going by, but they have timed on and off. They can do all sorts of different ways, and they don't mess around. In the areas that are free for alls, it is very specifically outside of general populated areas, and yeah, you can go real fast. And people say, well, it's the safest highway. Except when it's not. Those cars are designed, even the ones that are designed to go really, really fast, aren't designed to do well in crash tests, per se. So when they have catastrophic failures, and that could be by way of driver fault, people do get hurt. So it just, I don't know.
Sudden unintended disassembly procedures happen a lot quicker the faster you go.
Yes. And that's one of the reasons I don't like faster. Because faster, we have bad drivers.
Driving slow.
Yeah. And if you take that bad driver and give them the ability to double their speed, they just drive badly and have even less time to react when they're not even paying. It's just, I think it's a recipe for disaster. I have a very close relationship, having driven every day since the age of 16. I see horrible drivers everywhere. I don't want them to go faster because they'll just be going faster into other people. But anyway, everyone thinks they're a great driver. Just ask them. Factual Thinker says, can you drink and drive if it's an emergency? No. Because impaired
No.
operation, there's no...
Hold on, I got to use it. That's a hard no.
It's a hard no. Which button do I press? It's a, you're talking about taking someone who doesn't have the ability to properly think, decide, and react, and then put them behind the wheel of a motor vehicle because there's a stressful situation causing them to go faster, no, just a recipe for disaster. There is no exemption for emergencies. People think, well, if I'm at risk of my life, I should be able to put other people's lives at risk too. You might find yourself in a strange situation in court, but you're going to get arrested. You're going to, if you don't hurt somebody, you get caught, you're going to get arrested. And then the rest is for the court. You may have a wonderful trial that costs you $30,000 to defend or more. Donato wants to know, what are the physical requirements you need to be a police officer? Well, I happen to have that on screen right now. Don't I? Do I? Kind of, sort of, possibly, maybe. So you have to be 18, a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. We're talking about, okay, so there's hearing standards, of which I don't know the details of. You have to have where is it? You have to have a certificate from the OACP, which may have the physical involved. And there's beep tests, and I don't know what the standard is now. Is it 7.5, possibly, maybe?
I don't know.
It's a shuttle run that occurs. Then there is also there's flexibility tests. It's different. It's different than when I got on. But you would need to check the, is there somewhere else that
The
says?
OACP prep test.
Yes. I used to really like it sounds crazy to say this, but I used to really like what's it called? The run around, is it called prep? When you run around and jump over the
Do the
fence?
circuit?
The circuit.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I was fast and was able to do that. The shuttle run, I absolutely hated. Still hate. Gives me anxiety.
See, back in my time, it was a mile and a half.
I don't know if that would be better or
A mile
not.
and a half timed.
Yes.
Run.
But check it out, tps.ca / where is it? Careers. And you can look up all of the stuff and things about that.
Stuff and things.
Stuff and things. Is it okay to make a U-turn at an intersection? Possibly.
Depends.
Possibly, maybe. It depends if there's a sign there, and if it can be done safely. It depends on where that is in relation to other things. Where I don't expect that there will be an intersection directly in front of a viaduct, but
Bridge,
there's
viaduct, crest
railway
of grade,
crossing, yes.
railway crossing.
There's a bunch of hard no's, and then there's maybes. Now, I will tell you this: I don't know why there are people who believe they can make a U-turn at an intersection on a red light. That to me is,
Yeah, you can't enter an intersection on a red light.
I don't get it. So the answer is maybe. The big thing is signage and what province you're in, because I think certain provinces may have different rules about U-turns. So know before you go. Is it illegal to drive with a mask on? Well, there's vision obstruction potential situations, like if it was a mask that was for Halloween. But face masks, like during COVID, everyone wore them. I don't know why people wore them in their own vehicles, but hey, whatever. It's not illegal to cover your mouth with a mask. It could, but if it obscures your ability to see, then that would be a different situation.
Yep. Everything else, though, is pretty much good to go.
Yeah. Listen, motorcycle helmets are a mask of sorts. They conceal your identity. So it depends on what you're asking about.
Yep.
Depends. Clay Curry has a question. Is the motorcycle written test just on motorcycle rules? No.
No, it's rules of the road. Signs, general stuff like your G1 as well.
M1, G1 have a lot of similarities. But get the handbook. I think it's available online for free because certainly the driver handbook is. Nick Moke. Is it Moke? If you pull over to the shoulder, put your car in park 4 ways, can you use your phone? So this is a handheld communication device question. So if you pull over to the shoulder because of an emergency, your car is disabled, it's broken otherwise, that makes sense. You're calling for help. It's an emergency. You're pulled over. But you have to be legally parked. And technically, you can't legally park on the shoulder. It's an emergency situation. So if you're pulling over just to hang out and have a call because you need to know what's for dinner, that's a problem.
Why can't I park on the shoulder?
It's not allowed to park on the shoulder. It's an emergency spot. It actually says no parking.
Where? Where does it say that? On highways?
Yeah.
Maybe on a controlled access highway it does.
That's the highway we're talking about.
What about if I'm driving up Highway 48? There's a shoulder.
Is it not? I don't
Phone
know if
rings. I don't have a Bluetooth with me. I pull over to the side. I put it in park. I turn it off. I pick up the phone. I can say, hello.
So we're talking. So what I was referring to specifically when shoulder, I went the route of a controlled access shoulder road, which would be a highway, an expressway, which has signage when you enter it,
It's
and
expressway.
says expressway. So Highway 48? Can you do it? Can you park on the side of 48?
If it's not signed, absolutely.
Legal parking. That's the big question.
It has to be legal.
So if you can leave your car there, get out and park it and leave it, and you won't get a ticket, then there's no issue with it. I don't know about 48.
I just use that as an example. What about any street?
Again, legal parking.
So yes, if
So
you're driving
maybe.
in Toronto and the phone rings, and you go, oh, I got to take that, and you pull over into a parking spot.
Parking spot. He said shoulder.
No, shoulder of the road.
It could be. Okay, we'll give it a maybe.
right, we're
but
nitpicking.
legal parking. Legal parking. That's the big thing. I love it when we get into these things. Cudney question. I'm in Ontario, or I'm Ontario. I think you mean in Ontario. Do we need to replace an infant car seat even if there was no visible damage to the seat? If you were involved in a collision, change the seat. Your insurance company will, without question, replace the seat for you. I had a fairly minor collision with the car seat installed. They replaced them at no questions asked, instantaneous. Go buy it. We'll create you the money, because the foam, the ability for that child seat to do its job is impacted, even if there was no impact. Just the shock could maybe possibly cause damage and then make it less effective in the event of a collision.
Hey, even if it costs money and you're protecting your children, do that.
Yes.
Same goes for helmets.
People don't, first of all, helmets is a good thing. They expire in 5 years because the foam actually it changes. It becomes brittle. It no longer has the ability to absorb impact the way it was intended. But even if you drop it, it's a one and done situation.
Yep. Yeah, I see so many people putting their helmet on their seat of their motorcycle, and I just cringe. You know what? Take it down, put it down on the ground. Better you kick it by accident than drop it.
I like locking places. On my Honda, I have a place to lock it. On the Harley, we installed helmet locks so that they wouldn't get knocked off.
I have a box on the back. I put it in there. I close the lid.
Trunk's good.
It's good.
I like hard luggage. We have a question of how heavily is the electric scooter enforced in Toronto? Depends on what we're talking about. If you're talking about the fact that they're not permitted, it's a bylaw. It's a situation. Are we out there actively doing it? We're focused on bigger things. We'll deal with it when we can, but we are focused on the big four. You know, those who choose to drive in excess of the speed limit, people who choose to drive aggressively, people who choose to drive distracted or impaired. Will you get a ticket, or can you get a ticket? Absolutely. So that's, your mileage will vary. I will tell you this: if your scooter is illegal, and I mean illegal not because it's a scooter, but because it's a modified scooter, and it doesn't qualify as an e-bike, and it doesn't qualify as an e-kick scooter, be careful. I would suggest you don't even try it, because you will be caught on radar. You'll be determined to be a motor vehicle, and once you are a motor vehicle, you are covered by, or not covered, you are eligible, subject to all of the rules of a motor vehicle. So recently,
Including insurance.
Yeah, you're totally prohibited. It's a vehicle that's prohibited. You're a vehicle that should be insured if it's on the road. It's someone that you need a license for. If you have a criminal, if you have an e-kick scooter or an e-bike and you are in a criminal order not to drive, you're in deep trouble, regardless if it's legal or not.
That's an arrest.
Yeah.
That's a pro drive.
You got to know before you go. And if you are, like, some people turn to these modes of transportation because they have a suspension or they are disqualified from driving because of a criminal code conviction, you may be actually in hot water if you're caught.
You got to remember that this is a motor vehicle. This is not something that is being propelled by muscular power alone. So there's an exemption for licensing and insurance right now in Ontario for these types of vehicles. But on its face, right down to the bare minimum, it's a motor vehicle, just like any other motor vehicle that's out there.
Now, the criminal code has a different definition than, actually, they've changed the Highway Traffic Act to make it very similar. They're basically the same. The difference is, under the Highway Traffic Act, if you conform to the rules that they set forth, you are deemed to be driving not a motor vehicle for the purposes of that act, but for the criminal code, it's still a motor vehicle. Yeah. So it depends. And if you're involved in a collision and you're driving a prohibited vehicle, are you at fault? You are more at fault than you were 5 seconds ago when you're taking control of a situation and you're turning it in a not good way. We've had one wheels, those one wheel unicycles. They're cool. They're super illegal motor vehicles, but they're cool. They have no steering, no braking. They're unsafe for the road, and I've seen people just destroyed in collisions.
They're awesome. I want to try one.
Yeah.
I haven't ridden one yet.
I'm sure.
They look really, really cool.
I'm pretty convinced I would be seriously injured if I tried. But I've seen videos of one of those things passing a train, like Superman flying next to it type thing. Yeah, and I will give credit. There's a guy that I see regularly, and I see regularly when I'm off duty in my own vehicle, and he's wearing armor, like motocross armor, and that's an indicator that this is a dangerous thing. If you are wearing armor on every square inch of your body and then propelling yourself while standing, yeah, I give him kudos for his bravery. I'm assuming I don't know, dangerous. But I've seen people equally charged up the everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Lots of charges. Someone told me once upon a time that there's when you're involved in a collision, if you're doing everything right, you can check off the get paid box. If you're breaking rules, chances are those rules that you've broken will make the indicator for the courts and for the insurance companies make sure you don't get paid. You're out of the pay box. Don't break the rules. Okay, we've gone further down that than I thought we would, but okay. Austinator Reed is very hopeful because it's almost Friday. On Monday, it's almost Friday. Yeah. How much? It's very positive thinking. Well, it is almost Friday for me because tomorrow's my last day, and then I'll come back in June. So it is.
Must be nice.
You know what? I rarely do the vacation thing, but when I do it right. So how much are texting and driving tickets in Toronto? Well, it's not Toronto. It's all of the province of Ontario, and the distracted driving or what's it called? It's handheld communication device tickets, $615 with the victim fine surcharge already in place. 3 demerit points on the first conviction, 7 on the second, I believe. Not good. It's not a good thing. Not to mention that really hikes your insurance.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those. There's like minors and majors.
Any conviction hikes your insurance.
Yeah. Any can. Although minors, like people say, if you forget your driver's license at home, it's no big deal. It's just a document charge. My understanding, after having been told by the Insurance Council of IBC, Insurance Bureau of Canada, even those multiple tickets for document charges can impact your insurance.
Wow.
I had no idea. Question is, what is the correct way to make a right turn with a bicycle lane? Depends. Depends on the construction of the bicycle lane. Is it a lane? Is it a track? Is there a hash mark and a green space painted? It seems like the city of Toronto and cities all across North America have chosen a different construction style or design style for each and every intersection.
It's confusing. It really is.
Yeah, it is. Now, what do you do? Well, at the end of the day, safety is key. So regardless of what you can do, use caution. If you see a bicycle, don't cut them off because they have, although many of them can stop well, you don't want to be responsible for hurting somebody, regardless of whether it's going to be a ticket, your fault, or their fault. Vulnerable road users, please try not to kill them or hurt them or damage them in any way. That would be, just a way to. It's an inconvenience. Someone's going to say he's calling cyclists, and they're not an inconvenience, but certainly hurting them will change your day for the worse.
And theirs too.
And theirs, dramatically. So in terms of what's the correct way? Well, if the design of the intersection allows you to pinch the curve, you should pinch the curve, and the cyclist should be passing you on the left because that's the way it's designed in those environments. And some will argue, well, you're taking a bicycle and putting them into harm's way. You're actually allowing them to stop and make a safe lane change around you. It's actually, although not popular, not unsafe. And then there's cycle tracks where you have to effectively cross an active lane. If it's reasonable and you're there well in advance, they need to yield to you because you're in the midst of a turn that you've already started. If you're cutting them off, though, that's a problem. So it really depends, and I can't give you a perfect answer because there's so many varieties. What is interesting, though, is I've seen a number of signs up that talk about yielding to bicycles in the bicycle lane, but it's not a regulated sign. So, yeah.
Even if the sign tells you to do it, it's not regulated.
It doesn't appear anywhere in the HDA.
Oh, well.
I looked. I want to find things. I like to know I like to know the rules. TJW says, I was given a texting and driving ticket. Why is it $2,000? I was on my phone for directions at a red light. I don't know of a $2,000 ticket or why you would receive that or where you are. If you're in the province of Ontario, maybe you were given something as a result of the outcome of court. I don't even know if you can get a ticket that high. Can you go that high?
Well, it could be a summons to court because maybe you have multiple convictions so far, and the officer felt that they would send it to a justice of the peace to listen to why you should keep your driver's license. And
so, and I have to look up what the range is, but
I can do that while you're talking.
Sounds good.
All right.
But I will tell you this: it's unless you are legally parked, you cannot touch your phone other than to answer or hang up. If you're in GPS mode, there's an exemption on Ontario allowing you to look at the screen, but you can't touch the screen. You can't input for directions. It must be mounted and in the mode before you put it into drive from a parked position, a legally parked position. So you're eligible for a ticket in Ontario at $615. I don't know why yours is $2,000, and Sergeant Campbell is having a look. By the way, if you are watching and you don't know who I am, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police Service. Sitting next to me is Sergeant Murray Campbell, who is also a police sergeant with the Toronto Police Service. We work at traffic safety. Well, we work at Traffic Services, which is the citywide unit for traffic everything in the city of Toronto. And we do this where we answer your traffic and police questions because we love you. No, because I guess we don't not love them. It's because we want to help. We want to make access to police and information easy. Okay, DJ has a question. I know the answer, but can you? I know the answer, but I'm asking you anyway. Can you rolling stop and turn right the perpendicular road having an advanced grain? So rolling stop, see. Rolling and stop don't go together. You must stop. There is only a stop. There is no roll in the word stop or in the definition. So no, you cannot rolling stop. In fact, we had an episode of TPS Traffic Jam where someone had received 4 red light tickets in a row because they went around the block 4 times without stopping when making right turns. So there's a lot of people who believe that right turns on reds are legal without having to come to a stop first, and that's not correct. So it's right turn?
Red means stop. Stop signs mean stop. Fully stop.
Yes. Lack of forward momentum.
All right. So on your first offense, fine is not less than $500, not more than $1,000. When you move up to subsequent offense, not less than $500, not more than $2,000.
So this would suggest
for a second subsequent offense, which means your third offense is not less than $500 and not more than $3,000.
Okay. So the range is
it's
there.
possible.
Which means that you do this a lot, or you've done this before.
First offense is a driver's license suspension for 3 days. For your first subsequent offense, it's 7 days. And for a second or an additional subsequent offense, 30 days.
There you have it.
There you go.
Picky Pork Chop wants to know, can a passenger smoke a joint in a moving vehicle? Well.
Hard.
No. You can't. A passenger cannot consume drugs or alcohol in a vehicle, moving or not. No one can. You cannot consume it. The only way you can transport those things, drugs, legal drugs, and legally purchased alcohol, is to have it either sealed from factory or out of reach of the driver. What I just press. Why do the cyclists take up the whole lane when there's lots of cars behind them? Depends.
Same question.
It depends. Cyclists have an obligation to stay to the right side of the lane if it's safe to do so. But if there's damage to the road, stuff on the road, they are entitled to take up the full lane. It can be difficult, but they're allowed to be there. So the only thing you can do is safely pass when the opportunity presents itself, and you must give them at least 1 meter space and do it safely. it's amazing. Time is run out. We're at 11 o'clock. I'm going to scroll through to see if there's a couple of really great, amazing, can't wait till tomorrow questions. Now, tomorrow we will be back at 9:30 in the morning, starting with Jerry Agar on News Talk 1010 to do a half an hour roughly because there's some commercial breaks. And then we will do 10 to 11 again, and then we will not return until June 5th. Will be the first show back. Now, I would suggest, if you haven't already dipped into our archive of, I think we have almost 600 shows on YouTube. So check them out. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of content. And we also have a podcast with lots of episodes. So
Maybe people want me to do it without you.
you could
What do you
certainly,
think?
yeah, you can. You want to try and do some training? We'll get you up and running.
What
I'm
do you
all
guys
for
think?
it.
Can I do it?
We can try.
Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know. Email, smoke signal, everything. Austinator Reed. Have a question. If I get pulled over and I forgot my driver's license at home, do I have 24 hours to go to the police station and show them that I have a driver's license? I like this question. It's a simple one, but I think it's a really good one because it identifies a once upon a time situation and then today. So I think once upon a time when access to information was different, people got an opportunity. It was a paper ticket. We'd hold it. You'd come in. You'd sort of. There was an opportunity to do that. We know at the side of the road if you're licensed or not. So it no longer, you don't have to prove that you have it. We know you are licensed or not licensed right then and there, and the offense has occurred.
So the driver's license just helps us identify you as you being that person that has a picture here, and that is your name. If you don't have that with you, we have to identify you somehow, and we have to believe what it is that you're saying to us or providing to us. Could be valid Ontario identification, could be a health card, could be something else. You never know. So easiest is your driver's license. You're required to carry it. If you don't have it with you, don't surrender it upon demand. The offense is completely right there.
Yes.
We used to have 48-hour reports back in my day. We don't have them anymore. It's been taken off the books. So they said, no, either did it or you didn't do it.
And if you didn't do it, you did it, and that means you got a ticket.
Right. A 48-hour report, like Sean said, was good for when we could not check that you had a valid one or not. So insurance, you know what? We still want to know if you have insurance because we'll charge you with a higher fine for not having insurance.
The nice thing about that is we have 3 years to lay the no insurance charge, which means that I can take your information, give you a ticket for not surrendering, and then spend the next period of time and looking into your file, and then everything's documented with insurance companies. So people say, oh, if I got away with it, well, you may have gotten away with it today, but I have 3 years to lay the charge, and they get offended when they get a knock on the door. You're served. I've done those knocks. They're very satisfying knocks. I don't appreciate people who don't have insurance, who choose to put others' lives at risk, and not cool. Theo John has a question about lane filtering for motorcycles. What's your stance on it? Well, aside from that depends. Lane filtering is generally a term that covers moving through stopped traffic to get to the front of the light. I have a problem with that. It's illegal. If you're moving between the last two vehicles that you approach to prevent yourself from being the last vehicle in line to essentially make sure that you don't get hit because you're the most vulnerable, I personally have no issue with it. But that's me personally. Are you allowed to drive between two vehicles? No. Lane, what's it called? Lane sharing or lane splitting, not legal. That's where you drive through stopped or moving traffic to simply pass it. And that is absolutely not legal. Now, are there laws called lane splitting laws? No. Is it careless driving? Could it be stunt driving? Could it be even criminal dangerous driving? Yes. So my stance on it is don't do dangerous things. Motorcyclists are vulnerable already, and don't create situations where you are more vulnerable. But also that kind of activity puts others at risk, because have you seen how other drivers drive? They're not necessarily good. They're on their phones. So you're now riding between two vehicles or multiple vehicles at a higher, especially the faster you go, the differential speed means serious potential for harm, not just for you.
You know what? I've seen people jump out of Ubers and taxis in live lanes and just open up the door and smuck, there you go. And on that note, both of us being motorcycle riders, we're not any better or have more priority than anybody else using the road out there. Why does anybody think they're more special to get to the front of the line?
Their bikes get warm. They get really warm.
Well, yeah, they do.
They do.
And you know what? Well, if you don't like it, don't ride.
Yeah, it's just, I get, and there are countries, like for instance, Los Angeles, I say countries and then I say, California,
that
cities. Yeah. They allow it in California. It is permitted. And you know what it says on every website for every police service? Lane splitting is legal, however, an extremely dangerous and risky, I can't remember the exact wording. Please use extreme care or don't do it. Like it's one of those things, and I get it. They have traffic jams that last a lifetime. You could grow old in that traffic. So they will allow people to drive through it, but you have to use extreme caution. Let's see here. Tacticoast. Oh, does Ontario have a sheriff's branch, and if so, are they able to make traffic stops? We don't have a sheriff's branch like they do in BC. We have sheriffs, but they are simply to take on orders from the courts to like lock buildings and seize stuff. They don't do like British Columbia has a sheriff's branch that actually does traffic enforcement.
So does Alberta.
I think I meant Alberta.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I misspoke when I said BC. What he said. Boom, boom, boom. We have a question about, Jacob says, hello. Is it illegal to use a radio while driving? Like you tune your radio, like to change the channel, AM, FM, or walkie-talkie radio. So it depends. Police, fire, ambulance, parking enforcement, people operating police vehicles can use their two-way radios. If you're talking about changing the channel on your stereo, that's not specifically illegal, but it could lead to careless driving charges if it causes you to drive off the road because you were doing it, or not be able to manage your vehicle properly. When it comes to walkie-talkies, licensed ham radio operators can legally use them. So it depends because there's a bunch of different exemptions. So you need to know if you qualify. But ideally, no one should do it. We shouldn't do it, although we are permitted to do it. How do we get how do we get a ride along? If you're a student or if you have a reason to be doing a ride along, you can contact your local police and seek permission. It's the OIC, the officer in charge, could authorize that. They do a background check. They make sure you are who you say you are, and certain people get to go. I know students, like law enforcement students, people who are looking at have historically gone out with sergeants. Have you done that?
In Toronto, yeah. I've taken quite a few ride-alongs along. When I was going through college, way back in the dinosaur era, I did a month-long ride-along with York Regional Police. It was fantastic. Really opened my eyes to what policing really was.
No kidding. I went and joined the auxiliary police. I hadn't done a ride along until I was an auxiliary officer. But I think it's a great opportunity to see things, both ride alongs and volunteering. As I go over time again, because there's a couple of good stuff. Can a cop tell you to roll your window up to see if you have tinted windows? So yeah, we can totally do that, and because we can do an inspection, we can pull you over and say pop the hood. We can
try your brakes. We can do lots of stuff.
Yes. We talked about this. What can a cyclist be charged with when they run stop signs and red lights? No concern for the law. They can be charged with failing to stop for a stop sign. They can be charged with failing to stop for a red light. They can be, or disobey red light, or disobey stop sign. Wording is getting gumbled up here, but you know what I mean. And then, of course, they can be charged for careless driving.
You know what? Exactly the same fines for motor vehicles go for cyclists as well, because they're operating vehicles and it's on the roadway.
There are some that don't apply, like they can't be charged for texting and driving, which I wish they could, because there are so many people that I see riding bicycles whilst texting. It is unacceptable, but it doesn't apply to them, so they can do it.
Most of the moving violations do apply to them. The only difference is their record does not affect their
points.
Motor vehicle driver's license.
Does it not affect their license at all, or is it just demerit points?
Yeah, no, because we have to check off the box.
Not a motor vehicle.
Yeah.
So it doesn't affect their license or their demerit points.
Yeah.
That's good. Question from Shane. Can you have a front license plate on your dash? As long as you have a front license plate that is properly on your front of your vehicle and you had somebody else's license plates on your dash. Like, the dash place is not a place to display. And I'm trying to make a joke that went down sadly. Yeah. You know, if you were transporting your luggage on...
no, because you couldn't display somebody else's license plates on the dash.
But if it's not a legal place to display.
Well, it isn't, but you're still trying to display it. Secondly, they're made out of metal.
Dangerous.
And if they're on your dash and you get involved in a collision, or if an airbag goes off or something like that, that thing can come flying at you pretty fast.
I call it the Ontario Shuriken.
There you go. That would take your head off for sure.
At very least, it will hurt you, and it's not a legal place to display. It doesn't qualify under the law for properly affixed as per the regulation, and you'd be charged $110. People want to do it all the time. Just get a tow hook adapter or put a zip ties in your front grill, like some way to display it as per regulation. Otherwise, expect to be charged. Can kids go electric go-karts be taken up to parks, trails, max speed 20? No, most places won't allow go-karts. You need to know the regulations of the park you're taking it in, because there's bylaws for that. Let's see
There
here.
are certain places you can do it. I was at Mossport Raceway this weekend, and it's private property. They allow the use of them all around,
Okay.
and it was quite good.
The 20K ones are really slow. Those are like kitty ones. It's almost like Power Wheels. But maybe 20K is more than Power Wheels. 8K maybe is Power Wheels. I don't know. It really depends. I would avoid going out with things like that. I've seen some pretty fast ones, and they shouldn't be in parks. Most of them have signs that state no motor vehicles or electric vehicles or vehicles. Vehicles. Where are you going? Have a great trip. I was on my phone and police offer made eye contact and didn't pull me over. I was shocked. What is this? Okay. I think, was this in relation to your $2,000 ticket? I don't know. But where am I going? I'm going on a jet plane. And I'll be posting some content about where I am, but I'm going to be seeing some places in Europe. And looking forward to it. Is drinking donuts and stunt driving, what is this? Is drinking donuts and stunt driving have any charges in parking lot?
How can you drink a donut?
I think they mean doing donuts, drinking alcohol, and stunt driving.
I know.
Well, I just want to extrapolate. It was almost as good as my bad joke. So drinking and driving on private property, it's criminal code. It's anywhere. Donuts and stunt driving. Donuts, we're talking about like spinning around in circles. Yeah, that's stunt driving, and it applies anywhere in the province of Ontario, private parking or private property or not. There's no place you can legally do it. Yes. Let's see here. We're really scrolling to the end. I'm really trying to squeeze as much out of this because I'm going away. Bad dad joke. I didn't want to believe my dad was stealing from his job as a traffic cop, but when I got home, all of the signs were there. I don't mind that.
I like it.
That is good.
I like it.
Yeah. What are the consequences of riding a bicycle on a walkway? If you're talking about the sidewalk and you're in the city of Toronto, I believe it's a $60 or $65 ticket, roughly, maybe, possibly. It's not permitted unless you're under the age of 14. Morning, officer. I've seen a lot of RCMP using phone while driving. Is it legal? Well, it's legal in Ontario for police, fire, ambulance. If you're driving a police vehicle, you're exempt.
For work purposes.
Yes, ordering pizza bad.
Yeah.
But yes, it's obviously it covers one of the things is it covers this is my handheld radio right now. Walkie-talkies,
10-4, good buddy.
Permitting, so it's walkie-talkie or cell phone or computer. These are all communications methods. They're all for the purposes of public safety and or officer safety and or fire safety. There's exemptions in place for that purpose. It's not to order pizza. And we would encourage our members not to use their devices, even though they're exempt, if they're not doing it for the express purposes of work and safety.
Roger. Over, under?
Over, under? 10-4, good buddy.
Over and out.
Big Jeff Fresh says, I believe in Sarge. I don't know specifically what he said that made you believe in him, but I'm glad. Akela says, stay safe and remember, don't have a good day. Have a great day. And better late than never or speeding. Okay. Riding in a pickup truck bed, not legal. You have to be occupying a seat that has a seatbelt. What is this? If I request a criminal record check from the Toronto Police, will it be mailed to me or sent by email? I believe you have to physically pick it up. I believe. Do you know?
Sorry, I was still thinking about your pickup truck bed one.
What did you think about it?
It used to be allowed.
Yes, because as long as every seat inside the vehicle was occupied,
Yep.
there was a what do you call it? A loophole that said as long as you were
As long as all the ones that had
Seatbelts
seat available to it were taken. You could put people in the back.
and that worked for cargo vans and all sorts of things. But
Yep.
that loop has been closed.
Worked for me as a teenager.
Yes, you mentioned.
Not safe though.
No, and I remember pulling somebody over. They were in a 4-seater car and they had 5 people in it, and I charged the 5th person for not being in the appropriate place. And you can't put 2 people under one seatbelt.
A 4-seater car with 5 people in it.
Yeah, so they had more people in the vehicle than they had seats available for them.
Yep.
And I think they had 2 people in one seatbelt, but it wasn't legal. So criminal record check, I believe it's in person to pick it up. What is this one? Cars turning. What is this? Philip has questions about okay, here's one we have to visualize. Whose fault is it if one car is turning left onto a 2-lane, other car is turning right onto a 2-lane? I'm assuming you're talking about the same 2-lane. But car turning right turns into leftmost lane, crashing into the left turning car. The person who made an improper turn, you have to turn, so curb lane to curb lane, lane 1 to lane 1, the turning lane has to go to the appropriate lane. So if one of the drivers did not turn into their corresponding lane, they would be the one at fault.
The greater responsibility is, though, on the person that is making the left turn because they're crossing a travel lane of traffic to do so.
But in the case
So
where they should have gone into
Yeah, but they would still have to wait to make sure that the person signaling to make the right turn actually makes that right turn.
so they may
'Cause
both be charged for
That
different
person
things.
could continue on. They could be charged for not turning off their signal light, but they could continue on.
Okay.
Anybody making the left turn, crossing a travel lane of traffic, can only do so in safety. They must wait until it is safe to do so.
I will say in this particular scenario, I think, and I'm extrapolating from the way I've imagined it as opposed to how it's written, that they've driven into them because they've gone wide on their turn. So if the car turning left already made it onto the lane and the car turning right then turns into them, I think in that situation it would be the car turning right, but it depends on how you draw it. Let's see here. Solid green lights, no advances. I don't know. How about eating a sub sandwich while driving? Not legal. Well,
What kind?
This is true. I had tuna.
Tuna?
I don't normally. I was going to go I had a hankering for a tuna fish sandwich. How about eating a sub? Okay, we talked about that. No law against it. I want to make my own skid drift pad on my own property. Would I get charged? So this is about being a properly outfitted, recognized track with proper insurance, and I assume emergency services on standby with fire department, and because if you have a track, you need to be
If you had a
recognized as track.
permitted track on your private property to do that, then you'd be okay. You'd fall within the exemption. If you're just doing it in a field somewhere, no, we'd actually could come out and give you a ticket.
Yes. Nobody wants that.
Nope.
Okay. No more questions.
I think that's it.
Well, it is, except for 2 things. One, I have not shown anybody what jobs are currently posted, and there's a whole bunch of new ones. They're looking for so aside from being a police officer, parking enforcement officer, or a special constable, we are also looking to hire civilians to work for our magical organization. And the following are currently posted, 7 of them, in fact: manager of employee services. We have warehouse clerk, disclosure clerk, senior analyst, senior programmer, solutions architect, and communications operator. If you're interested in any of those positions, please go to tps.ca/careers. And if you are interested in Harley Davidsons or just being a good human, I want to let you know that you can buy tickets and increase your chances of winning, because you can't win if you don't have a ticket. 1 ticket for 20, 3 for 50, 8 for 100. This raffle for a 2022 Harley Davidson Touring Street Glide is in support of Special Olympics Ontario. You can't win if you don't buy one. So I've already got my tickets. Have you got yours?
I have mine.
See?
So, and I'm kind of planning on winning it. So,
Yeah, we all are.
You know
That's the thing. Anything else that we didn't cover that we should cover? Dad jokes. Is it just dad jokes that are left?
I haven't had dad jokes in a while.
It's true. I've sort of played catch up. One last plug here. VoiceOverCop. Not VoiceOverCop. TrafficCop.ca. I'm VoiceOverCop. It's a website. If you want to know where you can renew your license plate, check the validity or status of a driver's license before loaning somebody your vehicle. If you want to know the rules on e-bikes and e-kick scooters, or if you're buying a vehicle and you want to check to see if it's stolen before you buy it, yeah, you can go here and go to the appropriate website to do that. And of course, if you are a new resident or either visiting or moving to Ontario or anywhere in Canada, because it talks about every province, check out the website. This is my link tree. I put useful stuff and things here to help you out. Now we can talk about dad jokes because I think I covered everything. So May 11th was Thursday, the day I didn't feel very well, and I didn't read this. So people don't realize the benefits of sun-dried grapes. I'm raising awareness. I like that.
I like it. I actually like that one.
That's good. That's
Yep.
good. Friday, May 12th. This is from a calendar my wife bought me. I saw a weird thing at the gym today. This guy put a water bottle in the Pringles can holder on a treadmill. I don't get that at all.
The Pringles can holder on a treadmill. It's a water bottle holder. He's now renamed it a Pringles can holder.
Why is this funny?
I like it. I like it.
I saw a weird thing at the gym today. The guy so he's just saying he likes Pringles in his treadmill.
Well, he's renamed the water bottle holder as the Pringles holder.
It's not a joke. That's just, yeah. No, it's not. It's bad. Okay. May 13th and 14th. I recently bought a car with a broken reverse gear. There's no going back now. I like that one. Question. How do you get the kids quiet on Mother's Day morning? Say mum's the word. I don't think that one works.
Do you know my half brother and I aren't allowed to play with chainsaws at Christmas time anymore?
Do tell.
My half brother.
Yeah, that took a second. Anymore. Yeah.
You know what? I used to hate facial hair. But then it grew on me.
Yes. I got to say, you get really good ones. More often than not, your noise your noise to signal ratio is better, or signal to noise ratio.
You know what? I was wondering about this. It's unfortunate dogs cannot operate MRI machines,
Really?
but cats can. Okay,
Last one.
last one. You know what? And I saw your calendar, and your calendar has it, but somebody ripped out the 5th month of my calendar. I'm completely dismayed.
That one wasn't good. Anyway, listen, it's been fantastic hanging out with everybody, and thanks for joining in. It made today better. Now we have to do lots of other stuff and things, so I must bid you adieu and leave. So I wrong button.
Oh, there it is.
Traffic's on.
All right,
All right.
everybody. We'll maybe see you tomorrow.
Tomorrow sounds like a good plan. All right. Be safe. Drive sober.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed. And watch your driving, don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get free. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
And that's the day. See you later.